Brisco County Jr., a hot pizza every time.
So now that we've reached the end of the adventures of Brisco County Jr., tonight we'll be talking a little bit about what the second season was originally going to be, and a little bit of a reflection on the series as a whole. Now, my opinions of the series are pretty much laid out pretty well at the beginning of this venture. What I'm more interested in finding out tonight is the opinion of one Kyle Nash, who has now watched the whole show for the first time. Coming out of your travels with Brisco County, what are your overall thoughts? Was it a well worth venture to ride along Bruce Campbell, Comet, and of course, one Lord Bowler played by Julius Carey?
Yeah, rip Mr. Carey. No, what I'm trying to say is this, man. When it comes to this show, first of all, you already know the mantra of this show if you have been following along the retrospective with us. There is no way this should work. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, hello, Brisco. The thing works almost every single time. Granted, there were a few random steel horses and orbs misplaced throughout the episode, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'll take it to this step, Demos. This is something, it's an option for something were I to teach a class on film. No, I'm not so pretentious to think I have any reason to be doing that. Let me be clear. But were I in that position, were I a substitute teacher on the day that one would be teaching what it takes to rescue a production that has a pretty weak antagonist, it would be this show. The orb plotline should have killed this fireball thing. And who knows, Demos, it could have been the very thing that prevented us from a season 2. Okay? Let's be clear.
I that's one of my theories on this, especially when I look back, because I made a list of all the ratings that we gave, and I guess now's as good a time as any to say that there's one correction I'm gonna make, and I think I said that in the episode that at one point I'm probably gonna come back and re-rate this episode from a 4 to a 5, and I'm officially re-rating Riverboat from my initial 4 to a 5. But when I look back at the history of the show, it's really the first 12 episodes were pretty much all fantastic. With the only really the low point, I guess, of the first 12 episodes is No Man's Land. But nevertheless, first 12 episodes, fantastic. Then, really, from Steel Horses up until about Brooklyn Dodgers, about those 6 episodes right there, I feel like the series kind of hit a lull point. That's when you got some of the more extreme orb episodes and so forth. And of course, Bye Bly follows Brooklyn Dodgers, which was another low point. But it does pick up very, very strongly towards the end. And especially with that last episode, High Treason. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better conclusion. Even if this was a one-off season, I couldn't ask for a better conclusion. So it started strong, it ended strong, and I felt that the middle was a little weaker. But still, at the end of the day, enjoyable.
But it didn't have to be, I think. And I don't know how it worked out, but it would make perfect sense that executives are starting to pay attention to think about extending it. And then all of a sudden, you see, I'm actually from the year 740 million, whatever. Whatever. The point is, that was craptacular. And
I still think my theory was the correct one, that most shows start with a 13-episode order. And, well, since the first episode was a 2-parter, pretty much everything from the pilot to Crystal Hawks, those first 12 episodes were from that first original run, and those episodes really stand out to me as the higher quality episodes, and some of the best episodes in the show. It's when they came back and they added that little 30-second coda at the end of Crystal Hawks. That was foreshadowing of a lull to happen. I called it then, and I think you would agree that that was the case.
I'm inclined to agree with that, but it doesn't change my answer of the fact that this is an example about a show that can overcome a bad antagonist. And what sucks even worse is that Bly wasn't a bad antagonist.
He was awesome at first.
Stupid orb. Maybe it's a lesson on why MacGuffins suck. Maybe it's that. I don't know, man.
They made him rely on the orb when those storylines only tangentially crossed, or if it became something that he was just after because he discovered it for the same reason that Brisco was after it, that was fine. But making it a time machine, which he needed to use to get back to the future, with a naked future lady chasing after him, yeah, it got a little ridiculous. But at the end of the day, even at its low points, it was still an enjoyable show thanks to the charisma of Bruce Campbell and thanks to the intense chemistry and camaraderie between him and Julius Carey, and of course Socrates. Not even Whip Morgan could ruin the show.
Whip Morgan?
That should be the tagline on the DVD cover. Not even Whip Morgan could ruin this, because I can't give the show any higher praise.
It's appropriate that we call a 3 a cheese pizza, because I liken this show to pizza in that even when it's bad, it's good. Now, there's granted less family friendly analogies there, but I'm going to go with pizza just to make sure we don't get stricken or whatever by YouTube.
Well, you'd still, at the end of the day, you still want a hot pizza.
That's correct. And I think we did get hot pizza each and every time from Brisco County Jr.
Let's face it, okay? Beyond the fact that it stars legendary B-movie actor Bruce Campbell, you know, everything he touches, no matter, even in the crappier ventures that he has taken, anything he touches has at least an ounce of gold. Even if it's fireball pyrite, I will enjoy it. He has charisma, and he has that leading man presence, and he's always a joy to watch. And I'm not just saying that because he promoted our retrospective. I'm actually being quite honest. This is definitely a show that, since 1993, a show that was canceled after one season, that people are still talking about. People are still excited when the character costume ends up on Red Dead Redemption. People still have a bit of a love for this show, and I understand 100% why. I was talking recently to this guy that moved to America from Jamaica, and I just happened to mention that I was doing a show on Brisco County, and he went ballistic because Brisco County just happened to be one of the shows that he grew up with, and all his friends in Jamaica really got into this show. He was just so astounded that somebody here in America actually had seen it. It was like meeting a kindred spirit. He just kept going on and on about the awesomeness of One Lord Bowler.
What you be knowing about that Brisco? Me Henry just trying to talk about why they be canceling things. Oh, Demos.
And now I'm never going to speak to him again. Thanks.
You big bully.
I talk with that silliness to say this for a fact, my man. I can totally see how that would have happened. And I enjoy thoroughly that something that's known for the hallmark of the American cowboy is embraced by Jamaicans, and to the point that they even go, you got that down up there in the States, the Brisco County Jr. You know, that whole thing there is it's the same concept. Like there, you know, I know a person that went to China and they were asked the question, had you ever had a Coke before? Like, and I don't mean white powder, I mean the soda. But like, to get that to happen with anything, to where they identify it so much that it's their own, that man, that's powerful stuff to see that work that way. And I'll tell you, you know, I can see that at a point when that happens, you have one choice: cancel the show. So
I'm trying to think how many other canceled shows that didn't make it past their first seasons in the early 90s. Did people really still talk about? I mean, there's a show that's kind of similar to Brisco County that I remember watching, called Legend, starring Richard Dean Anderson, pre-Stargate, after MacGyver, and John Delancey, Q from Star Trek. You got MacGyver and freaking Q. I've never met a single person, I mean, now obviously I'm talking about this on the internet, somebody's probably going to pop up, but I've never met another person who'd ever even heard of that. I mean, that concept kind of sounds awesome, you have to admit it. A Western starring MacGyver and Q.
It would be great until somehow Q was thwarted by a paperclip. I couldn't get down with it.
Oddly enough, Q kind of plays John Delancey, who played Q, kind of plays the James Bond Q in that show in a Western motif.
Now I'm just interested. I'm not going to lie.
If memory serves, because it's very difficult to find copies of that show, as far as I know. Maybe it's easy. Who knows? But I thought this might be a good point to talk about a little bit of what we know of what the second season was supposed to be. Because the second season was being planned at the time. I'm happy they didn't end on a cliffhanger, and I'm especially happy it didn't end on the cliffhanger presenting the halfway point of high treason. That would have been the worst.
You mean the one you were thinking about making me believe would happen, you son of a bitch?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I kind of realized I'm not that much of a jerk.
Who are you, son of a bitch? Who are you?
Firing squad ready!
We had a good run, didn't we, Brisco?
Aim!
Yeah, we sure did, Polar.
According to Carlton Cruz, one of the show's producers, who actually went on to produce Lost, FYI, a show which also had a pretty good first season that probably should have ended after its first season. I kid. He confirmed that the second season would have started with Brisco and Dixie, cousins, settling down and him stepping into his father's shoes and becoming sheriff of a small town. And that would have been at least one of the major points in that season. That's all we really know. What are your thoughts of Brisco County becoming Sheriff Brisco County Jr. and settling down with Dixie?
You know, I had kind of assumed that, but I think what that sets up to having happen, it could go one of two ways, right? But his ceiling would be, so for those that have seen Star Trek Deep Space Nine, you know the immortal Odo, okay? He has had a number of episodes in the series that were Odo-based episodes that were friggin' awesome.
He was the sheriff of Deep Space Nine.
Correct, the constable more appropriately. But I think the ceiling for an episode of Brisco County Jr. where he is just, air quotes, just the sheriff of whatever territory, would be limiting unless he had good deputies and all that stuff. Of course, among them, you would have to hope Bowler would return. You'd have to hope Julius Carey's agent would deliver on that. I think he still would have been alive to do that.
Oh yeah. At the time.
And moreover, you would have to find other deputies, but you can see the efforts there weren't strong, right? You had Nevada what's-his-butt from the one episode who was so bad that replaced him with Whip Morgan.
Whip Morgan?
We even have a clip to make fun of Whip Morgan on the regular. That's how often we've done it, okay? So, and I suppose by accident, Dixie would be wrapped up into some of the deputized chicanery. One would think at some point there would have to be a baby Brisco introduced, but maybe they wait till season 3.
Oh gosh.
I don't know, but that's what you're setting up is
Brisco County the Third.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say I do agree with you when you mention limiting. It's quite a difference if Brisco's traveling all over the West and meeting up with wacky characters in different towns and so forth. But to have the show centered around one town and having all the wacky characters coming there, we've said before that one of the it kind of goes along with your mantra of this shouldn't work, but it does. That one of the traits of Brisco County is it always had its tongue in its cheek, and it was always very careful not to stick it out. There are a few times where it slipped, but for the most part, it kept that true. I think that having a series that's set in that small town and having the wackiness of the Brisco criminal rogue gallery coming into that town might have stuck the tongue out a little much. But once again, we're really just going off of one line.
Sure.
I would hope that they would continue with what the second half of the series in season 1 picked up with, the government agent style Brisco, because when that worked very well. I really dug those episodes. I think it was at its best in High Treason probably summed up in that one scene where they're trying to rescue the kidnapped woman, and Brisco and Pete are having their crazy charade show off.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, and I would even add this too, Demos, right? If he's an agent, continues to be a Secret Service agent, essentially, and Dixie continues performing, that performance art that she does is an excellent traveling career. I don't see how they couldn't be a motley duo, so to speak.
She entered the universe of skullduggery in the episode Deep in the Heart of Dixie, and it worked very, very well. So having her be part of Brisco's espionage gang, which kind of sounds strange when I say it out loud, would work very well. Making her a true femme fatale. This kind of sounds like a bone that we were thrown for a happily ever after coda for the fact that we're never getting a second season. Maybe. It's like, oh yeah, Brisco would have become sheriff and he would have settled down with Dixie. That just makes you smile knowing that happened from the makers. It's canon.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd love to see Bruce Campbell come back as Brisco, but the underlying thing that would mar that for me, honestly, is part of what made that show as wonderful as it is. And I said this before, and I said it in this episode a couple times, is that camaraderie between Bruce Campbell and Julius Carry. And with Julius Carry being unavailable, it's like doing a Star Trek show, and they tried to do this, but they never did. It's like doing a Star Trek show with Kirk without Spock. It'd be missing a lot of what that heart is.
That's not a bad response. What I will say, though, is I think you could get plenty of mileage out of Socrates, out of the professor, though I'm pretty sure I'm not sure that actor's still alive either.
John Nash. He's only 90 years old.
Shut up. The only way it would really work is if it was a vehicle to kickstart a new series featuring Brisco III.
Here's the problem. Okay, the biggest issue is it wouldn't be a Western anymore. If it was 25 years after the 1890s, we're talking World War I here. World War I or early 1920s, depending on if they fudge the dates a little bit. Okay, we're talking about a completely different world. It would be interesting to see the West evolving from the Old West to Brisco actually coming face to face with the coming things. That would be very interesting, but it would definitely be a very different type of show.
Yeah.
But now they say it out loud, I feel like there's potential.
It is, but I mean, that would be incredibly...
But that would be much more serious.
It could be a follow me on this. Only your biggest movie buffs are really going to follow this. But like, I think it could be a situation like they kind of flirted with in the John Wayne movie Big Jake, right? Where at the beginning of it, there's people showing up in automobiles and fancy, sniper rifle weapons and things like that. Stuff that's of the new era. And then they bring up Jacob McCandless, aka John Wayne's character, right? Who's much more old-fashioned. He's going to kick ass and take names to get his grandson back, but his sons are coming along with all this fancy hootenanny crap that, he's talking crap on, but then eventually they all get over whatever it is they have and they work together. There could be some there where it's something, call it what it is. Maybe the death of Bowler himself takes away from Brisco's wonder in the coming thing and makes him a bit more sour, and then there's something that comes along where he and his son with Dixie have to overcome a who's a what to then get together and use the coming thing to win the day. You see where I'm going?
Yeah,
but
it does. It sounds a little. I'm not to say that I dislike it, but it sounds a little too serious for Brisco County.
I'm working too hard is the problem. Like I'm
well, you know what would make sense? Like if he was like a Buffalo Bill-esque character. He actually becomes like that traveling cowboy. But there are many films that have dealt with the Old West versus upcoming technology. Like the film you just mentioned, The Ballad of Cable Hogue, it's not exactly a unique trope, but taking that trope and running it through the filter of Brisco County's steampunk nature could be very interesting.
Right?
Regardless, I mean, would you be welcome to a Brisco County Revisited?
Here's the biggest flattery to the series that we've just witnessed. Because this show is what it is, yeah, I'm damn sure be curious when they did it.
I thought they did a decent job of bringing back Ash Williams in Ash vs. Evil Dead. And Bruce Campbell has proven that he has that versatility. I would definitely watch it. I would be a little hesitant because I love Brisco so much, but I don't necessarily think... This is why I'm a little bit more open to this than some other reboots or... of older TV shows. I don't think they can... I don't think with Bruce Campbell attached, I don't think they can do anything to ruin it unless they let politics seep in. And I don't think that this would be the kind of show where they would allow that to happen.
Exactly.
Brisco, sometimes it's good to have something in your life that you love to hate.
I would have much, much higher hope for Brisco than I did for Picard. So...
Yes, well stated.
I'll leave it there. So this isn't the end of our venture with Brisco County. Next week, we'll be talking about our top 5 episodes. And if you have any requests for any future Brisco-related top 5 lists or topics, let us know in the comments below. We're still looking for a new show to tackle. I'm still leaning towards somebody that has a hat whose adventures would oddly start about 25 years after Brisco.
Who, oddly enough, is somebody that Demos has had a man crush on among fictional characters for his entire life, not named James Bond.
I would have another hat that I own that I could wear during these interviews. And especially with as long as my hashtag Corona hair is growing, that might be a good thing. So,
and it would be a situation where he'd talk about a whip and not get angry.